thanks for allowing me to come into your house and check out your cool tank, man. I really appreciate it. If you don't mind, just first introducing yourself, how long you've been in the hobby, and tell us a little bit about how long this tank's been running up.
Hi, my name is Gari, Bernabe. I've been in the hobby for about 7 years, and this tank it's been running for about 4 years, and then the previous one, the 180 gallon, that one's been running for like 3 years.
Awesome. Well, how did you get into the hobby and from the beginning?
I got in the hobby because of my brother, and he has a Red Sea 250, and I saw his tanks. I was like, wow, those are nice corals, colorful corals, and that's when I started building my tank.
Cool, man. Tell us a little bit about the tank, what kind of tank it is, and what kind of equipment you're running.
This tank is a Red Sea 350. For the light, I'm running 2 Radion G5 blue, and I have that 1 MP40. For under the tank, it's a Skimmer. It's a eShop S300, and it's rated for like 3 to 500 gallon, and just a regular return pump, J-bow.
Cool. On the Radions, are you just running like an AV Plus or something that you created yourself?
For the settings, I picked the radiant color, the settings, and it's just more on the blue side because I kind of like the corals popping colors.
Cool. How long are they running each day?
The display tank and the frag tank, both of them at the same schedule from 10 a.m. to 11 p.m.
Yeah. Cool. And I know you mentioned the skimmer. That sounds like that's your main source of nutrient export. Since you mentioned you have a oversized skimmer, did you find it initially hard to tune the skimmer given your fish load, or was it something that you were able to come to you pretty quickly?
In the beginning, it was kind of hard to tune it, but eventually, like a couple of weeks later, I was able to get the right settings for the sun.
Cool. Are you running any kind of like socks or mechanical filtration?
Running a filter floss, and it has a GFO and also a carbon.
Are you running GFO and carbon 24/7 or just when you need it per application?
I'm running 24/7 because I feed heavy on the fish and corals.
Cool. How many times a day are you feeding the fish?
Fish, they get 2 times a day pellets, and every other day I feed them frozen.
Awesome. And I know you mentioned coral. Are you just feeding like reeferoids or benefits, or what are you feeding?
For corals, I'm doing reefroids, plankton, and the Red Sea AB Plus.
Cool.
And an Aqua Forest life source.
Okay. Are you just broadcasting, or are you feeding individually as well?
Since there's so many corals, I just do a broadcast.
Okay, cool. Do you have any particular favorite fish? I know you mentioned to me you have around 15 or so here.
Yeah, I have about 15 or so fish here, and right now my favorite one is the clown.
Okay. Speaking of favorites, do you have any particular favorite corals in your tank?
Corals, I have a lot of favorite corals. I'll start with zoas, and then my Gani gardens.
Awesome.
And in particular, I don't have really name for it. I just like the colors.
Yeah. You mentioned that the Red Sea's been up for about 3 years or so. Was everything pretty much grown out from frags, or did you get any, larger pieces?
So for the zoas, I started with a small frag, and the leather, the toadstool, that started with a small frag also. And the rest, I got them colony or a big piece of coral.
Yeah. Gary, I know locally you're kind of known for the Zoa King. Can you kind of like let us know your husbandry methods with Zoas and growing them out?
I guess the color of the Zoa, the different types, so many Zoas, like different colors. That's why I got into Zoas.
Mm-hmm. Do you find like in your Zoa garden matching like certain ones, like having a difficult time doing that, stinging each other, or generally it's pretty safe to say any Zoa can go next to any Zoa?
For my experience, I guess I don't have an issue with them next to each other, but it would be nice to have like a colony of different type of Zoa in one rockscape.
Yeah. Do you find in general that they seem to like lower light, or I mean they're climbing all the way up on your tank, so it seems like they like kind of high and low.
I've noticed some of the Zoas doesn't really like higher light.
Okay.
Most of the higher end ones, they're like pretty low, like towards the sandbed kind of area.
I know your tank's mostly LPS and soft dominated. Is there any particular coral that you have had issues with in your tank?
For this tank, I would say the acros and chalice. For me, it's harder to keep them alive in this tank
Than previous ones?
Yes.
Cool. You supplementing the tank? How are you dosing alkalinity, calcium, magnesium, etc.? Do you dose any trace elements, amino acids, anything like that?
Dosing manually. I usually dose alkalinity, calcium, and magnesium. And for the trace element, I do part A and B.
Okay. Have you had any setbacks or issues with the tank? Any particular types of pests that you've had issues with?
In this tank, I have some Aptasia, and I won't say a pest, but I got some Bristol worms too.
Yeah.
Those are fine. But I have a nudie branch grow out tank, so I use them to take out the Aptasia.
Yeah, I saw that in your garage. That's a pretty cool thing. Have you found the Bergia nudibranchs to replicate pretty quickly?
You won't see them for the first week or so, but you'll see the difference after like a couple months. You'll see the Aptasia will slowly go away or disappear.
Nice. Do you feel like your wrasses pick them off in the tank at all, or is it kind of just it's worth the risk kind of thing?
For me, because I don't like the Aptasia, so I guess it's worth the risk. And I can see the difference from before. Now there's like a few Aptasia that I see here and there.
Yeah. I know you mentioned the one wrasse to me. Could you remind me what kind of wrasse that is?
That's a Potter wrasse. It's one of the, I guess, hard to keep them alive wrasse kind of thing.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
Yeah, I had them for I would say about 3 or 4 years now.
Nice. Awesome. Did most of the fish and rock come from your old tank, or did you kind of restart everything from scratch?
So the rockscape came from my old tank. So it started as a dry rock, and from there, from the 180, switching to this Red Sea 350, I use the same rock to seed the tank.
Awesome. Is there any particular advice that you would give to a new reefer who's looking into getting corals?
I would say to take your time, know what you want, and don't forget to ask. Don't be afraid to ask questions to other reefers, and also save a lot of money.
We didn't discuss your water parameters yet. Could you kind of give us a rough idea of where you hold your alkalinity, nitrate, phosphate, calcium, magnesium?
Okay, for alkalinity, I'm running around 8.4 to 8.6. Calcium's at 435, nitrates from 15 to 25, and phosphate, it's pretty high. It's 0.9 right now. But you know, corals are doing good, so I'm not really trying to chase down the parameters.
Yeah. Regarding like maintenance, how often are you doing water changes and these types of things?
Water change, I do every 2 weeks.
Okay.
I'll do like 25 gallons of every 2 weeks.
Okay.
And
Cool. Can you let us know, Gary, do you run any type of controller on your tank?
controller, not yet, but soon.
Okay.
Trying to see if I could get like a Neptune Trident controllers, so I could check my parameters and stuff like that.
Okay. Do you run any like temperature controller, like an Inkbird or anything like that?
The BRS Inkward,
Okay.
That's what I use.
Cool. Other than that, I guess, is there any final words you'd leave with any reefers looking into getting into the hobby?
Like I said before, take your time, have fun, and I guess save a lot of money for your. It's not really cheap hobby.
Would you recommend, in order to save kind of money, to get to know people locally and find people who are willing to trade and sell versus, maybe going to these huge retail shops that sell things for a premium?
For my experience, I like to get my corals from a local reefer, so I know that their corals are healthy, and the pests, you need to know people with what they have in the tank, the pests and all that stuff.
Awesome. One question I didn't ask, just real quick, do you have any certain quarantine methods? Do you dip corals when they come in? What are your practices in terms of that?
For corals, I always dip my corals, no matter where I got it from. A friend, my brother, store. If I get some from the store, I always dip them. That's my one thing.
Awesome. And fish, are you just getting those from someone you know that kind of takes care of them, or are you doing any quarantine for fish?
For fish, know some people that I could get the fish from, healthy fish they're eating, and they have them for like months before they can sell it.
Awesome. Well, Gary, I really appreciate your time and letting me come check out your tank. It's quite stunning, and hope it looks that way on camera as well. Again, thank you, and have a good one.
Thank you.